Taking risks. Potentially, at some point in the future, you could be laying in your deathbed, surrounded by your loved ones, but thinking back over your life, reminiscing, but always thinking, perhaps I should have taken a few more risks, a bit more of a gamble. But sometimes things hold us back and we like to wrap ourselves up in cotton wool and take out some sort of insurance policy to make sure that tomorrow is going to be very, very safe and secure and predictable. But life isn't always like that, and you're never going to cover your back for everything. But risk isn't all about leaping out of an aircraft like James Bond or diving down to the bed of the ocean to look for some sort of treasure on a Spanish galleon. It's just doing incremental things that might benefit you in the future, but make you potentially feel a little bit uncomfortable. But if you follow 5 steps, the daunting prospect of risk isn't really there. The first step is to think of risk not as an enormous dramatic event where some sort of orchestral music is playing in the back of your mind. All it is taking a little bold leap, something you wouldn't ordinarily do, but you're just moving forward and perhaps investing in some stock or share, or going to some sort of new dance event at the local disco where perhaps your friends might have ridiculed you in the past. It doesn't have to be too dramatic. The second point is to be willing to accept uncertainty. Nothing in our lives is certain. You never know whether you're going to get hit by a bus or you're going to stub your toe on the edge of the fridge. But if you can accept that things are uncertain, your willingness to take on risk is significantly increased. The next point is to separate risk from your identity. Sometimes people think of themselves as some sort of know all and they're very safe with what they do. But if you can escape that and your identity isn't being really safe, assured, and predicting the future, you can take on risk and move forward and still stay somewhat calm. But even if things are spiraling a little bit downhill, you can make some sort of adjustment, but don't panic too much. The next point is to focus on consequences. Sometimes people fear things that are absolutely irrational, and taking a risk seems like it could be the end of the world. But if you think out the consequences and you realise that the risk you're taking might not be that bad. So, for example, if you were to invest some money somewhere or you were going to take a new job on, you're probably not going to come to an absolute demise. You might lose a few £100 or you might need to look for another job at some point in the future. But it's not the end of the world, and the consequences of your actions will probably spell that out. And the next point is to move on from point 4, which is to normalise recovery if success doesn't come about. Often people think that when people take risks and they're successful, they're always successful in every outcome. But often this isn't the case. It might just be 1 out of 3 things that are successful. But if it pays off, it can be worth it. So if you normalise that you're going to fail in some things, and then recovery is part of the process to move on and take another risk, the actual prospect of the risk in the first place isn't really that daunting. So, to reiterate on those 5 points again, treat risk not being totally dramatic. It's not such a massive leap. Learn to deal with uncertainty. Try and separate risk and predictability with your identity. Focus on the possible consequences, but don't think it's going to be absolutely diabolical. And to follow on from that one, normalize recovery because some things will fail, some risks won't pay off, but you can recover, bounce back, and be ultimately successful. And hopefully, taking a risk won't be that bad and you can get some positive gains from it.